Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 82 of the All Dolphins podcast. This episode dedicated to, yes, I could go with Brian Hartline, a guy who'd like very much, but I'm not going to. Yes, my good friend John on social media. I am going to go with somebody who spoiled it on X, Twitter, Duriel Harris, wide receiver who played for the Dolphins in the late 70s and early 80s, who had the distinction of being the first Dolphin player that we know of who tore an ACL while celebrating a big play, and also was part of probably the greatest play in Dolphin history. And I did a story on the top 100 greatest plays in Dolphin history. That came in as my number one, the hook and lateral. That's before your time, Omar, from the 1981 season playoff game against San Diego.
Hold on. So something beats the Miami Miracle as the greatest play in Dolphins history? Please explain.
I will explain. And the player is Duriel Harris. And the play was the Dolphins, who trailed 24-0, started coming back. It was 24-10 right before halftime. Balls on the San Diego, that were known as the San Diego Chargers back then. 5 seconds left, too long for a field goal. So there's one last play. Don Strock, who had come in to replace the starting quarterback, David Woodley at the time, throws, I don't know, about a 15-yard pass to Duriel Harris on a button hook, where he's now facing the quarterback after he catches the ball. Everybody converges to Duriel Harris, unbeknownst to the Chargers. At the same time, Tony Nathan, the running back, was running across in front of Harris. So as he's falling down, Duriel Harris pitches the ball to Tony Nathan for a completely legal lateral, and he just races around the corner for a touchdown. And that's my number one for two very obvious reasons. Number one, I don't know that anybody had seen that kind of play before. And number two, it was in a playoff game. Whereas the Miami Miracle, which was great and which was a game-winning play, much more wacky, but it wasn't in a playoff game. And there was, while it was good, it was a lot more freelance. This was a design play, and it was absolutely brilliant.
Okay, Miami Miracle was also a design play, but yes, I hear you. Playoff, I guess I shall give you the edge. I do feel like Brian Hartline got cheated, but I can understand you wanted to tell a story, and it's important from a history perspective because I am 40-something years old, can't remember because I stopped counting, and this is important for the 30s and the 20-year-old Dolphin fans who don't know their substantial and significant history. I remember when I started covering the team back in the day, back in the 2007 era, the Dolphins were the winningest franchise in the NFL.
They were.
Now, clearly, that's taken some hits.
They're no longer the winningest franchise. And it was always in terms of winning percentage, and they got there with so many winning seasons under Don Shula, and that's since disappeared. We will say this about Brian Hartline. We will mention he holds the Dolphins single game record for most receiving yards with 253 in 2012 against the Arizona Cardinals.
He is also one of the greatest receiver coaches. If you haven't kept up with Brian Hartline in college game, all those Ohio State receivers that have come out of that program, extremely polished and ready for the NFL. That's Brian Hartline. He was phenomenal as a player when it came to X's and O's and understanding things. As I said and confessed on a previous podcast, anytime I went inside that locker room and a play happened or something happened that I did not understand, I did not go to whoever was the head coach. Usually it was a boob, Joe Philbin. I usually went to Brian Hartline because Hartline explained it so thoroughly and clearly for me. And he will be a head coach in the college landscape very soon. He's offensive coordinator at Ohio State. I am just curious to see where he goes and what he does when he finally does leave Ohio State.
Absolutely agree. No, and you make the point of going to him instead of a coach. Coaches, generally speaking, are not necessarily fond of spending time with reporters explaining plays, whereas certain players will gladly do it. And one last thing on the hook and lateral before we move on to the 2023 Dolphins, look it up on YouTube. Just type in hook and lateral. You'll see it's an absolutely brilliant play. So today is September 20th, 2023. Game preparations begin for the home opener against the Denver Broncos. It also means we have our first injury report of the week. You want to take care of it, Omar? You want me to do it?
I can take care of it.
Okay.
It is Xavier Howard is probably the most, well, obviously there are other guys that are way more important, but Xavier Howard was absent from practice. That got cleared up on the practice report where he was given a rest day. I love that for Xavier. I like a fresh Xavier. And we all know when Xavier is hurt and battling something, he's not the same player that leads the NFL in interceptions since joining the league in 2016. And yes, he still owns the record. He's actually 3 interceptions shy of catching Sam Madison for, goodness gracious, I just wrote it, for 3rd place in interceptions in franchise history. Now, will Xavier, I think he'll get Sam Madison this year. That's just the kind of ball skills Xavier has. Will he get the 2 safeties? Damn it, why can't I remember
Jake
their name?
Scott and Dick, I'll help you out. Jake Scott and Dick Anderson from the 70s Dolphins.
The old dudes who are bothered that I don't know who they are. And as I explained to one of them, which I don't remember which one, bro, I wasn't even alive. I'm sorry. But yes, I don't know if he's going to get that record because I personally believe that this might be X's last year here. We can talk about that later. But Teron Armstead practice, limited reps. They are going to ramp it up, according to Mike McDaniel, later on in the week. I'm assuming that means.
Could he have a full practice tomorrow? We looking at full practice?
He said it's a padded practice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming maybe he's gonna get a little see what happens to the body when he does a full padded practice. I will say I watched Teron today, in a drill that they usually never really show us, and it's not where I expected it to be. Just being transparent to you. And I'm sure maybe I'm overstating it, but I expected a little something extra. And it was a not important period of practice, but I was just watching and evaluating movement skills, which is what I do. And then we've got Jalen Waddle, who did not practice because he's in concussion protocol. He is generally going to have to participate in 1 practice or 1 walkthrough this week, which means at the bare minimum, he will have to do Saturday's walkthrough to play on Sunday's game. But we're not putting the cart before the horse. And honestly, Mike McDaniel basically said, I just want him to get past his concussion issues or effects of the concussion before we even begin or entertain the possibility of him returning to practice. And to be clear, I was talking to Chris Perkins, who mentioned something that really made me second guess rushing him onto the field. The last thing he takes a lot of hits, and the last thing you want to do is have somebody rushed onto the field with a concussion and then get a hit that basically leads to a much longer extended vacation.
And no, as we talked about in an earlier podcast, and if any team would be very sensitive to that, I think the Dolphins would be near the top of the list. So, resume.
Then we get to Savon Ahmed, who is sidelined with a growing injury. Not necessarily certain that he's going to practice this week. And even if he does practice, the Dolphins are, truthfully speaking, getting prepared for Savon Ahmed and Chris Brooks to have an elevated role. This wide receiver unit, this running back unit is relatively thin.
Sorry, Omar, Devon Achane. You said Savon Ahmed again. Devon Achane. Sorry.
Yeah, we talked to him today, and he talked about how he's confused for Devon all the time. And you know what he said?
Are you serious?
Yeah, you know what he said?
Yeah.
The only way people figure out who's who is because Savon wears orange shoes.
For all of those who have given us a hard time for not being able to tell the two apart during training camp and all that, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to identify, especially when your high coaches film like, is that 28 or 26? And they got very similar styles. Orange shoes and they very similar styles, very similar size. Orange shoes allows you to tell them apart. 28, 26. It's close, people.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I was not able to make it out to the Dolphin facility today. This is why when Omar is telling stuff like that, I'm like reacting kind of the same way you guys are, especially when they mentioned Armstead, which I found a little bit disappointing, to be quite honest with you. But I did catch the main availabilities, and Mike McDaniel said that he did say beforehand that Ahmed would not practice, probably would not practice tomorrow. And if you're a running back with a groin injury, you're not practicing on Wednesday and Thursday, he ain't playing. I think we can pretty much cement that right now.
And now it's a question of, do we trust Devon Achane? But Raheem Mostert, he's handled 95 snaps in his first 2 games. That's a very respectable workload for a back who is 31. And I know Raheem doesn't like when people bring up his age, but that's a substantial workload for a back who is at an elevated age.
Oh, very, very, very politely put. And McDaniel had a fairly telling comment when he talked about Achane. He did say on the one hand that the game wasn't too big for him when he was out there against the Patriots. And then he just said something along the lines of, now it's a matter of how well he can absorb the whole playbook. If that's not code word for he needs to earn our trust before he gets a lot of snaps, I don't know what is. And the other running back who's going to be active is Chris Brooks, who's a rookie free agent, whose knowledge of the entire playbook, I can't imagine would be much more elevated than that of Devon Achane. And then the other option is elevating Darrington Evans, who's got some experience, but he's joined the team after the 53 was set.
So this is his 3rd week with the team. So
correct.
I highly doubt he knows the playbook, but I think Devon is ready to handle more. And if there was any opportunity or any time for you to throw the rookie into the deep end and see if he swims, it's right now. You get your back. Why does the name escape me?
Jeff
Wilson. You get Jeff Wilson back after the next 2 games. He'll be cleared to return from the IR, and you really get to see what your full onslaught or auxiliary of backs look like. And what I like about these backs is that they have varying skills and varying skill sets and varying body types. So I think it opens up new elements of the playbook. And I could say the same thing about the wide receiver unit, because that was one of the questions I think I might have asked Mike McDaniel in the question we each get. Yeah. I don't like, I got to go on record and say, I don't like the fact that he filibusters so much. We only really get one question. So you got to be very specific about what you use your one question for. If I use my one question for injury updates, I'm screwed. That now I can't get to whatever I'm working on. But anyway, that's besides the point. I would like him to filibuster 45 seconds less on each question, on each topic. So maybe we could all get an extra question in.
And we all like Mike, but absolutely, he a lot of times takes 2 minutes to give an answer that could realistically take 30 seconds.
45, the way he answers things. But yes, these wide receivers have various skill sets that if you had to play without Jalen Waddle, who the fear of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, and it's not just one, it's both. It opens up a lot of things for a lot of players.
It does.
And what I'm curious about is how much do you have to change or alter your offense, and how much will teams adjust to how they're playing you based on the absence of one or the other? It's funny that both Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa basically said, at the thought of one of their top receivers not playing, they're like, I'm not playing this week. I'm not coaching this week.
Might as well sit down.
And it's just an illustration of the luxury that this team has. And they're paying handsomely for it, and will soon pay even more handsomely for it. But it is such a luxury to have 2 number 1 receivers. And I do view Jalen Waddle as a number 1 receiver. If one is covered, you just go to the other. I'm not covered, but the focus is to take away one, which is usually Tyreek. You just go to Jalen Waddle. And if teams double up Jalen and Tyreek, then the underneath is absolutely wide open for Braxton Berrios or River Craycraft, or, you could do some running gadget plays with Eric Uzukama or
Come on, say it. Man, you are leaving out Durham Smythe. How dare you?
Oh, damn it. Durham
How dare
Smythe,
you?
even Alec Ingold, who disappointed me by not catching a pass. Damn it.
Uh,
I wish I could have made some money off Durham. I mean, off Alec Ingold.
I ain't go, but no, but here's the thing: is the Dolphin offense is not going to fall apart if Jalen Waddle's not there or Tyreek's not there. Except let's be honest, they do lose. They have like an insanely unique situation with two guys who are so stupidly fast as Hill and Waddle. I mean,
Yes. It's not going to
um,
fall apart, but
no.
it's going to have to evolve.
Correct.
And
It may look more like a traditional offense than the absolute
track meet.
speed circus that we see on a regular basis.
You know, the one thing that I will say that Tua addressed, and I asked that question as well. I actually got some good questions in today. I was proud of myself. A little pat on the back. And it's funny because this bothered me all training camp. How the receivers were constantly rotating, and there were plays you would see Tua go out there with Dawood Davis and who's the practice squad wide
Chris
receiver?
Coleman,
or Chris Coleman. Like, and you'd be like, starting unit, Dawood Davis, Chris Coleman, and you're like, huh? Like, what's that about? And it didn't just happen occasionally; it happened every day, and that was about while the playmakers getting comfortable and adjusted to working with everybody, every receiver, Mike White, Skylar Thompson, Tua Tagovailoa, and the quarterbacks developing an understanding of who they are as weapons. And be honest with you, we saw the whole exhibition season without Jalen Waddle. So we know what the offense kind of looks like. And we know Braxton Berrios is probably going to, if he has to play, have an elevated role. And to me, that means Braxton plays more slot and less slot for Tyreek, which perfectly fine. Yeah. Or as I'm very fond of saying and bringing up, you know, if you want your offense to stay status quo from a speed standpoint, you're going to need Robbie Chosen. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to be elevated. I don't know, you know, maybe they go Eric Uzukama or Cedric Wilson, but, you know, Uzukama and Cedric Wilson do not bring the speed that Robbie Chosen brings, and they don't present that deep threat that Robbie Chosen does. However, they probably know the offense twice as well as Robbie Chosen. And we know.
You sure about that as it applies to Uzukama?
Yeah. We heard Wes Welker say that Uzukama knows the offense now.
Okay. And for those wondering, McDaniel wasn't asked about the possibility of elevating Robbie Chosen, and it's a useless question because he wouldn't say anything anyway. Literally, I asked him last week. I mean, seriously, I phrased it like, is it more likely than not that Devon Achane would be active last week, and he wouldn't go anywhere near it? So, again, it's not that we're not doing our job and they're not asking him. He's not going to say anything anyway. We're talking about wide receivers. We should mention that Tyreek Hill showed up on the injury report, limited with ankle injury. If you saw the game on Sunday night, you may have noticed there was one point he came up limping after a play. And we've seen him getting his ankle taped quite regularly at practice. So I don't think it's a cause for alarm. As a rule of thumb, however, you see a guy popping up on the injury report with something new that wasn't there previously, or on the injury report, I should say, and listed as limited, very often that indicates an injury that occurred in practice, like more often than not. And I'll give you an example. The guy in New England last week, cornerback Jonathan Jones, perfectly fine Wednesday, Thursday, shows up with an ankle injury, doesn't practice Friday, is not playing. Guess what? He got hurt in practice.
Yeah, but not Wednesday. Tyreek might have surfaced from the game, and you know if they got to go get treatment on it, got to be on the injury report.
Correct. No, but there are no injuries. There were no injuries reported in the press box. But this is why I point out, like, for example, because there were a couple of guys in the same situation. Tyler Kroft showed up with a back injury. Raekwon Davis showed up with a wrist injury. Those are new. And then Andrew Van Ginkel showed up with an ankle injury. Those are all new. There were no injuries reported in the press box, but with Tyreek Hill, who's in the same situation, we did visually see him come up limping after a play. So in his case,
Football's a physical game and guys get hurt, right?
really? No way.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know.
I understand, but you catching my point though?
I think it could be residue from the
Yes.
game, as all of them. Like Andrew Van Ginkel was playing his butt cheeks off. Like he probably hurt an ankle doing it.
No, correct. And this is the final point needs to be made about this. This is a lot more applicable on the Thursday injury report.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody shows up with a new injury on Thursday. That's red flag. Okay. The rest of the injury report. Elijah Campbell limited with the knee again. He hasn't played all year so far. Tight end Julian Hill, the rookie free agent, ankle injury, hasn't played so far, also limited. And Jalen Phillips with the back, also limited. Denver Broncos, and this is our little media gripe here. Sean Payton is talking. Justin Simmons, are very, very good safety. Didn't practice. They asked Sean Payton after practice, before the injury report comes out, and ask him what's the issue with him. And he goes, well, he's rehabbing an injury. What's the injury? I'm not telling you guys. With the injury report about to come out an hour later, and now we see it's the hip. Exactly why that was so dramatic for him to say hip.
And then he's got to address it.
You don't think he can dance? If he can say, no, I'm not telling you what body part, if he can't say, because it's very simple for Sean Payton, and I don't think he'd be shy about saying, okay, had he said at the press conference, it's the hip. How severe is it? He didn't practice today. He's nursing it. End of story. Okay. I'm not buying this whole thing of, well, he'd have that.
He's Sean Payton. How much is he getting paid again?
Correct. Because he doesn't doesn't make it any less lame from where I stand. Anyway, I pointed out on social media.
Let me tell you a secret, Poop. Nobody cares about us. Nobody cares about the media.
But we're the conduits to the information when it comes out.
Again, are you following me? Nobody cares about us.
I care about you.
I care about you too. But like, they don't care how hard our job is. They don't care. We got to wait an hour for the injury report. Like,
no, but I'm still going to point out how okay, I'm still going to point out how completely ridiculous I think it is. Anyway, along with Justin Simmons, Mike Purcell, defensive tackle, ankle injury, did not practice. Frank Clark, who's now an outside linebacker in Denver, was kind of more of a defensive end with the Kansas City Chiefs. Hip injury, did not practice. He didn't play last week against Denver in the Broncos 35-33 loss. I don't believe he played in the opener either. And finally, tackle Garrett Bowles, who our good friend Ben Albright, who was our guest on Behind Enemy Lines, called Garrett Holds, has an ankle injury and he was limited.
If you did not check out that Behind Enemy Lines, please do, because it was not only good, and Ben Albright, who I realized I had blocked, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, that name sounds familiar. I mean, and you know, he probably said something snarky to me, and I was just like, this could have been like 7 years ago. I really don't know. I don't pay attention once I block people. Also, if you're an all Dolphins fan and you bookmark all Dolphins on your computer, put your Twitter name in the comment section of this exact post, and I shall unblock you. It's alldolphins.com, freedom for all.
Wow. But an unblocked party. And when I reached out to Ben to ask him to join our podcast, I actually mentioned your name. It was to join you and I. I'm actually impressed that he didn't say like, oh no, that jerk who blocked me. Hell no, I'm not doing it.
He probably doesn't know I blocked him. Like he probably
didn't even know you actually.
Yeah, he doesn't even know who I am. You know, it's not personal. I block for my own personal protection because I know I could get a little ruthless on Twitter. So if you keep coming at me, generally I'm gonna come. Poop has encouraged me to behave myself. And funny enough, I have to now encourage him to behave himself. But especially when I wasn't working for an entity, I could get a little savage. So,
no, correct.
You know, I'd scroll down your Twitter timeline and find things you posted and mock you about it. But I'm growing up. I'm maturing. Poop.
You're saying you were mocking me about stuff I saw on my Twitter timeline?
No, I'm saying I can do that when I don't like you, or like
Oh,
before I block people, I generally go on their timeline, see if this was like an accidental, snarky, rude, disrespectful comment, or if this is just your history of what you do on Twitter.
yeah.
And usually it's your history. And if you got a dog avatar, I just know you're a person that only animals can love.
Whoa. Yeah.
That's just, I don't make up the rules, brother.
No.
Like,
I'm with you. I draw the line at rudeness and disrespect. Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Tell me you disagree with my point.
yeah,
Tell me why it's a stupid argument I make. Don't call me names.
I will discuss and debate anything with anybody, but I will not tolerate disrespect and rudeness. And like, hey, name calling. But anyway, let's move on to this. Who steps up, and how much does it impact the offense if Jalen Waddle doesn't play?
I kind of like, to me, because of the way the offense has been rolling, and because I like the beep act. By the way, I'm going to address this because somebody tried to like correct me and says, no, it's not beep, it's meep. And then I actually looked it up because actually, no, I think my wife might have looked it up because we discussed it. And it turns out the trademark accepts either beep or meep. So anyway, I prefer beep. Anyway, to keep the beep aspect of the offense.
You would look that up.
Well, she is married to me, so yeah, yes, there's somebody out there
she
who
knows your habits.
Yeah, I think a lot of my stuff has rubbed off on her. We've been married 18 years, so and vice versa. Anyway,
congratulations! I only made it to 14.
Okay, well, thank you. No, we're here for the long haul. Shout out to Darlene. I love you very much.
Damn, hold on, wait a minute. I would have been married longer than you if I didn't get divorced. I got married before you.
I got married in 2005.
Okay, all right. Hey, well, look at you. So, okay, when I knew you back in the Dolphins days, you were just a bachelor running around town, killing it, huh? Okay. All right.
Moving on. Yeah, not really, but moving on. Anyway, going back to our earlier point, I like the beep aspect of the offense. While I do believe it absolutely can function very well without having the two speedster element. That was weirdly phrased, but anyway, you get the drift. I kind of like the idea of elevating Robbie Chosen from the practice squad. As you mentioned, neither Eric Ezukama or Cedric Wilson Jr. have the kind of speed on the outside that Robbie Chosen brings to make the defense, honest respect, open up the field and create all sorts of things underneath.
But hold on.
That's what
I hear what you're saying, but don't you think that Uzukama and Craycraft and Chosen deserve that opportunity to have those elevated snaps? Haven't they put in the work, whereas Robbie Chosen is probably just out there getting the defense ready for the starting unit? Now, if he's tearing up the defense, the first team defense, as a practice squad player.
Well, we don't know that because we
don't know that. Then of course you elevate him.
Okay, but you mentioned Chosen in your thing. I'm assuming you meant Wilson. You meant Craycraft, Ezukama, or Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, well, can you and I both agree that if it's not for his contract, Cedric Wilson's not on the team?
We agree.
Okay, can we agree that he's not a burner type? He's actually more of a slot guy.
No, he says he's not a slot receiver, but we agree.
Okay, but we agree. Okay, and the Dolphins are covered there with Hill and Braxton Berrios. Okay, and here's the thing.
And River Craycraft.
I never seen him. I think, but okay.
Craycraft is good in the slot.
Craycraft's good anywhere. Craycraft is very, very solid anywhere.
Which is why I think it might be him. I really do think it might be him.
Well, but he doesn't have the speed.
Hold on, but if you want this, yes, you're right. But Craycraft right now, as the third leading receiver at 74 yards, he's already scored a touchdown, averaging 14.8 yards per reception on his 5 receptions. And more importantly, he can play every spot. So if Tyreek goes and does something unique that Tyreek usually does, based on what the defense sees, Craycraft can instantly knows it and does it.
Except
whereas,
go ahead.
Which is what I think could be lacking with the other receivers.
But my point is, I kind of like the idea, if you can keep all the other guys in their role, which they have played so well, including Ezukama in the Debo role, Smythe in his role, Barrios as a slot third down guy, Craycraft in his role, and all you need to do is insert Chosen instead of Waddle. Why wouldn't you do that? Now there are certain routes that Waddle runs that I don't think Chosen would do. They run like wide receiver screens with Waddle, who's got very good, first of all, the quick burst, and he's got some juke ability right after the catch. I don't know if that's Chosen's game necessarily. And they'll run crossers with Waddle. That's also not necessarily. Chosen pretty much goes.
Chosen has done that, and Chosen has been a slot receiver. So he's done. I'm a little bit surprised. He's done everything as a receiver. Now, I just don't. While I would like to see it happen, and I do think that I agree with you, that would be the best thing for the offense. I'm just not sure a guy who has not worked with the first team offense for 3 weeks is ready for that kind of call up. Not to say that Uzukama's ready for it, not to say, and let's just assume Braxton just stays in the exact same role. Or maybe he goes outside in that the too tight fullback package, the 21 package.
But then this is where I would say, if you're not elevating Chosen in this situation, which is kind of the ideal situation for him to step into, why the hell did you bother re-signing him to the practice squad?
Touche.
So
I mean, I don't disagree with you. It's going to be a very interesting chess match in terms of, do I want my offense to evolve or do I want it to stay consistent? And where is Tua in terms of chemistry with all these guys? Where's Tua in terms of chemistry with Chosen? And I got to admit, I didn't think Tua and Chosen had great chemistry during training camp and the exhibition season. And, Chosen made plays, and I will stand on the fact that Chosen was the top big play producer in practice, with the exception of Tyreek. Waddle didn't practice. So, but, he didn't make the 53-man roster. But if you, and I personally believe the Chosen can go help a team like Kansas City right now. A wide receiver star team, Chosen can help you. But, hey, he wants to be here.
No,
props
correct.
to him for being here.
Well, but him not making the 53, I think part of it was numbers. They already had 5 wide receivers, and carrying 6 is semi-luxury. And because they had all those injuries in the secondary, they needed extra bodies over there because they had some guys who either weren't going to be ready or maybe they weren't sure. Like Elijah Campbell, Justin Bethel playing the opener, I think is kind of surprising to all of us. And then Brandon Jones also needed some time to get back to full speed. I did a mailbag for alldolphins.com for free. Bookmark it. Check out Omar and
Not the mailbag, the whole site.
Correct. Yes, everything is free. But I did a mailbag on the free website, alldolphins.com. And a lot of the questions, and you and I can discuss this, was in light of Andrew Van Ginkel playing so well against the Patriots, is like, I'm having people saying, well, should he now not like get a bigger role and almost like rotate evenly with Chubb and Phillips, even play more than them? And I'm like, and my initial reaction, pump the brakes. No, really?
No, yeah. You in the words of Lewis of Riddick in Chronicles of Riddick and Pitch Black, you keep what you kill. And Andrew Van Ginkel killed it. You keep it. And it's your job till you prove otherwise. I keep rolling the hot hand, rolling the dice. And
whoa. So you're starting him instead of Jalen Phillips against Denver?
I said what I said.
Whoa. Okay.
Or making him a third down, because he actually came into the game as a third down pass rusher on a lot of the plays. So he didn't handle the first, sometimes second.
51 snaps. I mean, he was on the field quite a bit.
Yeah, at the end of the game, he was a third down pass rusher. Trust me, I looked at it. And they rotated way more than I was comfortable with on the defensive line, which maybe helped everybody stay fresh and allowed everybody to perform a little bit better. But, you know, Deshaun Hand, Emmanuel Ogba, a lot of guys were Peely, a lot of guys were playing. And I was like, not sure I'm down with this, but if it gives you the ultimate outcome that you want, and guys playing less reps helps the defensive line play at a higher level, oh well. But yeah, I'm a big you keep what you kill guy, and there's no way I'm taking Andrew Van Ginkel off the field. None, zero, not a chance.
No, I'm not suggesting you bench him all of a sudden. The idea that he like now goes ahead of either, and then somebody mentioned like ahead of Chubb who hasn't done anything. Well, tell me you didn't watch the game Sunday night without telling me you didn't watch the game, right? And then Jalen Phillips is not like, I mean,
a slouch. I know.
No, we're talking about this guy like breakout season. He's going to make the Pro Bowl all of a sudden because he has to miss a game with a back.
Name me the game that Jay, and this is no disrespect to Jalen Phillips because I have he's a man crush member. I like him, respect him, think he's a great player, think he'll be $100 million player. Name me the game that he performed at Andrew Van Ginkel's level last Sunday.
Oh my God, dude, are you serious? He's had games like that. I mean, and it says where you're going to go. Well, you can't name me one right now. Okay, make a note of this, Omar. Make a note. Write it down on your pad right now. I will look it up and I will come up.
You will be back.
Yes, I will. I'll come up with 3 or 4 games where he played like this.
Please do.
With all due respect to Van Ginkel, whose praises I have sung longer than probably maybe anybody
you have.
Okay, I think his performance is getting a little bit overblown here. Okay, now I put the poll. You saw on Twitter. I put the poll. Who was the player of the game against New England? Bradley Chubb had a more impactful game. I said this on the podcast earlier this week. Bradley Chubb had a more impactful game. Andrew Van Ginkel had a sack, had a very near pressure. Sorry, he had a pressure where he hit Mac Jones as he was throwing the ball. Okay, and then Bradley Chubb had the forced fumble. He had a sack. He had the pressure on the last play of the game. I mean, this is where, I mean, can we be a little realistic here? And I don't think.
I think he had 3 pressures. He had 3 pressures. Listen, Andrew Van Ginkel. I'm not a big Andrew Van Ginkel fan. I like him, but, you know, I think he's gink. But, that was hot. That was hot. And you got to keep rolling with the hot hand.
Okay, well, he played very well. I still think Chubb was a bigger impact player. And I think the idea of starting.
Your poll says you're wrong. Your own poll says you're wrong.
That's true. Fan opinion. And again, I don't know how much of that is performance over expectation. I don't know. Bradley Chubb's the first round pick for whom you gave. Is the former first round pick for whom you gave up a first round pick and gave a huge contract. So he's supposed to do that. Van Ginkel is a 5th round pick. He's not supposed to do that. So are we grading on a curve? Anyway, we're going to have to wrap it up. Thanks for watching as always. We're on YouTube. At the risk of saying again, we so massively appreciate all of you. Please subscribe, like, share, tell your friend.
Tell a friend. Matter of fact, do me a favor and share it with a friend.
Absolutely.
That will help us continue to grow our audience, which helps us continue to feed our kids. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yes, he said it. Where you get your audio podcast on the Fans First Sports Network under Miami Dolphins Insider. Let's do this again tomorrow, Omar. And I will look up Jalen Phillips' big games for you before then. Later.